My fiancé told me he was gay, but he was actually hiding something worse. I, 29F, have been with my 31M fiancé for 5 years now. Our whole relationship has been a smooth sailing up until now. He was always so caring and loving to me. We would go on dates often, and he would always bring home flowers or other little trinkets for me, and overall was just my rock. I felt so lucky to have found someone like him, especially since my last relationship was a total disaster. For context, my previous relationship was a high school sweetheart relationship. But rather than having the romantic movie story to tell, it was filled with horror. He would cheat on me all the time, but I was afraid to leave. Eventually, he left me for another woman, and I was finally free. This left me with trust issues, which I still go to therapy for. I met my fiancé a year after splitting from my ex, and we took it slow. He had told me that he also came from a rough relationship where his ex had cheated on him too, so I felt comfort knowing that he understood my thoughts and feelings. He proposed 2 years ago with all our friends and family surrounding us. It was a stereotypical romantic scene, and I loved it. We rarely fought, and on the occasion that we did, there was never any hurt. We would always communicate and take our time when solving the problem. I always thought it was too good to be true, and it was. A few weeks ago, I came home from work to find my fiancé sitting on the bed in our room, and he asked me to sit down. He looked very anxious, which made me nervous, but we had just went on a date the night before and had a lovely morning with each other before we both left for work, so my first thought was that he had been fired from his job. As the title says, though, I was wrong. This is how the conversation went. "I'm not sure how to tell you this in a gentle way, so I'll just get to the point. I'm gay." "What?" Then he said, "I'm so sorry. I thought if I stayed with you long enough, I would be able to ignore these feelings and push past it, but I don't think I ever will, and that's not fair on you." "You've been gay this entire time? Why would you propose to me if you knew you were gay?" He says, "I really thought I could ignore it and make it go away, but I can't. I'm so sorry." I've cut the conversation short, but you should get the idea. After a while of talking, I told him to get out of the house. It was the first time I had ever raised my voice at him, and he looked shocked to see that reaction. I wasn't angry at the fact he was gay. I was angry that he had lied to me for years and led me on with this romantic fairy tale. That he had spent years making me feel like the woman of his dreams, when in reality he had never once felt a romantic love for me. Our wedding was almost fully planned and paid for, which angered me more. He let both of our families help pay for a wedding when he knew there would never be one. After telling him to leave, he apologized again, then went to stay at his sister's. I called a few of my friends and my mom over and told them what had happened. After a few hours of crying and talking, we decided to pack all of his stuff into boxes so that I could have him out of my life ASAP. This is where I found out he was hiding something worse. While we were packing his things, we came across a second phone that he had been hiding. He didn't have a passcode on it, so I decided to take a look through it. This was where I found that he had been cheating on me since the first year of our relationship with multiple women. The latest was a woman I'll call Katie. Him and Katie have been seeing each other for about 6 months. Every time he told me he was seeing his sister or going out with friends, he was going to her house. The part that snapped me the most was that not only was he cheating, but he had been mocking and laughing at me with these women, calling me horrible names I won't repeat and sharing my trauma with them so they could laugh at it. As you can probably guess, he also wasn't gay. He had fallen in love with Katie and needed to find a way out that I wouldn't find suspicious, so they came up with a whole plan and script for him to follow. I showed the messages to my friends, and they all took pictures of them and proof of his affairs and lies. My mom consoled me for a little while, then we continued throwing his things into boxes, then dumped them on the curb before going to stay at my parents' house. I'm usually a very calm person, but something snapped in me, and I wanted to ruin his life, so I sent him a text telling him that I knew everything. I had proof of it all, and I would be sharing the happy news of his newfound relationship with all of his family and friends. He started blowing up my phone, at first acting in denial, saying he didn't know what I was talking about. That very quickly turned to anger, then panic. I sent the screenshots to his family and friends with a brief explanation, thanked them for welcoming me into their groups, and expressed that I would be sad to see them go. Then I turned off my phone for a few nights. When I finally turned it back on, it was full of apologetic messages from his friends and family. They couldn't believe what he had done and told me that he was going to be kicked from his family. I'm not sure if I went too far, but I don't really care right now. I wanted them to know the real him, and if their decision is to cut ties, then so be it. I'm currently still at my parents' and haven't opened any of his messages or listened to his voicemails, but I'm guessing he won't be happy in any of them. His sister has also reached out to me and has asked if she can stay in touch. She has viewed me like a sister since she met me and doesn't want to lose me. I told her I would need some time to think it over, that I do care about her, but I'm not sure if I can still be a part of his family, even if he's no longer in it. She was understanding about that and is giving me space and time to think it over. I feel like my entire life has fallen apart. I told my boss what had happened, and he has allowed me to take some personal time off work to get back on my feet. My dad went to my house and changed all the locks, but I think I'll stay with my parents a little longer before heading back. I'm not even sure I still want to live in that house. My boyfriend's best friend is obsessed with him, and he won't do anything about it, and it's ruining our relationship. My 21F boyfriend, Darren, 25 AM dating for 1 year, has a best friend, Russell 23M, who displays extreme obsessive behavior towards him. He calls Darren multiple times a day, gets angry when can't hang out with him, and throws tantrums when he doesn't get his way. There was one time I invited Darren to get snowed in at my house, and Russell called me crying, saying that he wanted Darren to get snowed in with him, and when I didn't uninvite Darren, he had a complete meltdown and called me selfish, controlling, and a terrible girlfriend, among other things I won't repeat. I blocked him, but he called my friends and cried to them, asking them to convince me to uninvite him because I'm so selfish. This is only one example of his insanity. Things got better earlier in the year when Russell got a girlfriend, 22F, and rerouted his attention to her. We didn't see him for months because he was so busy spending time with her. We threw a birthday party for Darren, and Russell came without his girlfriend, so naturally he was out of control, and after that night, he started bothering us every weekend to party and hang out. My Darren has a full-time and part-time job, while Russell has been unemployed for months, so Darren doesn't want to get drunk every weekend, which makes Russell mad. Darren and I see each other most evenings and all day Saturday, which Russell knows because they're next-door neighbors. Even when he knows I'm at Darren's house, he'll call and try to get Darren to ditch me and hang out with him, and when Darren says no, he just takes up our time by talking about stupid and vulgar things and gets upset when Darren ends the call. The most baffling thing is that he doesn't take no for an answer. He'll wait an hour to call back and see if Darren changed his mind and wants to hang out this time. It's a never-ending cycle. There was an incident a few weeks ago where Darren caught Russell cheating on his girlfriend with a mutual friend, 22M, so he came out as bi, which we have no problem with. My biggest issue is that his girlfriend has no idea he's bi and still doesn't know he cheated, but he brings his girlfriend around less because of this, which only causes him to cling to Darren even more. I posted in another sub and people commented saying that Russell is in love with Darren and something needs to be done. I had a talk with Darren about making boundaries, and he agreed to talk to Russell about getting things under control, not answering calls from Russell when I'm with him, and making sure we don't hang out with Russell one-on-one. I thought things were finally getting better. But over the weekend, Russell called out of work. He got this job 3 weeks ago because he wanted to hang out with Darren without asking first. Darren felt bad, so he agreed, which I think is only enabling him more. I don't know what more I can do. I start panicking when I hear Darren's phone ring. We have to sneak into the house because Russell watches to see when we get home. And even when we temporarily block him, he knocks on the door. I've thought about reaching out to his girlfriend and explaining everything to see if she can get through to him, but I know she'll be devastated, and it might cause more problems. A restraining order isn't necessary yet, because things aren't to that level, and Darren is too afraid to stand up to him because of his tantrums and potential violence. What can I do to make sure this doesn't ruin our relationship? So last weekend was when Russell had a psychotic break. This week has been calmer since Darren had a talk with him about how his behavior is pushing him away. His biggest tantrum this week was because Darren and I found a condo 30 minutes away that we liked and wanted to check it out. We were supposed to go Friday, so when Russell asked to hang out that night, we had to tell him why we were busy. No surprise, he flipped out and asked why we were looking now when we said we weren't moving out till next year. He's been badgering Darren with questions every day about it and freaking out because he'll see Darren less. Then, After Darren had the talk about how his constant calling bothers him, he claimed his reason for calling and texting so much last week during his breakdown was because he had something so important to ask us. What was that important question, you ask? Do you want to go kayaking with me and my girlfriend next month? I was furious. Darren has to explain again that we won't be doing activities with him and his girlfriend anymore since he cheated on her with their other friend, and she still doesn't know, and I feel too guilty to be around her knowing. He was mad but knew he was the one in the wrong, so he left it at that. The biggest development this week is that he got kicked out of his house. That's right next door to Darren's house because his mom said if he isn't going to show up for work, he isn't welcome to stay there. He acted so surprised and upset when he literally calls out every single weekend for no reason except to see Darren's. I'm worried he'll guilt Darren into moving in with him by saying he has nowhere else to go. I told Darren if he moves in, there's no way our relationship will survive. I also think this will be a way to manipulate Darren to give him more attention. Like he says he's busy, but Russell pulls the "I'm just so sad and need a friend" card when he actually doesn't care since he'll end up living with his GF. Luckily, Darren told me he feels he's starting to grow out of Russell and wouldn't mind seeing him significantly less. Also, he talked to his mom after she took Russell's side, saying he's just desperate for friends and we should feel sorry for him. After the talk and finding out about all the harassment and hatred towards me and infatuation to Darren, she sees why we avoid him and has stopped blaming me. I guess we'll see how he acts this week while he figures out where he'll be staying and if he can manipulate Darren into spending more time with him. Next story. I put meat in all my food to stop my vegan stepdaughter from eating it. My husband just found out. I, 32F, live in a blended family with my husband Ron, 35M, and his daughter Maggie, 14F from his previous marriage. I had another person living with me, but they moved out, so my husband and stepdaughter moved in. I don't mind living with them. It's fine, and we kind of do our own thing. Me and my husband both work in the day while Maggie's at school, and then in the evening she's at that age where she does as she pleases while me and Ron curl up with a glass of wine and watch a movie. I spend a lot of time with my original family while both Maggie and Ron are busy in their lives. Me and Maggie don't see each other a lot because she tends to be here, there, and everywhere these days. But we all manage and make time for each other when possible. I want to start by saying that my stepdaughter clearly struggles with eating a balanced diet. But I don't think it's an excuse. I don't have a lot of time to make a good healthy meal 3 times a day every day either. However, I've noticed that my food would go missing or portions would be taken from it. I assumed it was my stepdaughter, so I asked my husband if he'd talk to her about it. I was calm about it, and he said he would. It didn't really upset me when it first started. It started getting annoying when I'd get home from work and expect to have a meal's worth of leftovers in the fridge, only to see it picked through or just gone. I kept bringing it up, and my husband started getting annoyed with me bringing it up. Ron has always been a vegan since we started dating, and Maggie also follows suit, so I knew that they both didn't eat meat, and judging by the food that would get picked through and the food that would be untouched, anything with meat in it was avoided. Vegetable stir-fry would be gone, but spaghetti with chicken sauce would be untouched. So I started putting meat in everything. I find chicken especially to be delicious, and anything without it does not feel like a complete meal to me. So I could mix some chicken into the food and it would be fine. I make a big portion of chicken pretty frequently anyway, so I just started putting it in everything I eat. If I had leftover mashed potatoes, I'd mix in ground beef. If I had leftover cheesy bacon fries, I'd pour shredded chicken all over it and mix it in. Usually my homemade stuff has meat in it, but I started making sure everything did. I made a pot of mac and cheese, my stepdaughter's favorite thing, and poured in grilled steak pieces, which is actually delicious to me, and I'm eating more meat, so it's a win-win. She had been seeming annoyed, but we were all home when I made the pot of mac and cheese. She was in the living room and saw me get out the steak and was like, "What are you going to do with that?" And I poured them in. She said I was being greedy and annoying. I just said, "I like steak." And that was it. She said, "We need food." And I told her to go get some. Or ask your dad to make you something instead of taking mine. I think she sees this as some big act of revenge, but I just simply want to be able to eat my food. Also, I want to add that the sharing is not the issue. It's sadness of expecting food to be there and it's not. So often I'd be working a long day and get home expecting to have a meal's worth of food and it all be gone. Or I wake up in a rush and had my food ready to eat in the morning only to find it gone. So now I have to skip breakfast. If she would simply text sometimes, "Hey, is it okay if we eat food item?" I would know to make other plans. I would stop for food, or know I have to whip something up when I get home. Also, I think eating the last of someone else's food is crazy and rude. If someone makes a big pot of something and you ask for a serving, sure. But if someone made something and there is one serving left and you eat it without permission, that is evil as hell. So I have been steadfast with putting meat in everything. I've put meat in things I've never even thought of. This has carried on, and my husband found out, and he is fuming, but will not tell our daughter is eating my food isn't allowed. He just sees me making a lasagna and adding chicken and beef in the layers of fumes off to the side. The only thing I can't add meat to is snacks, like chips, or if I bake brownies or cookies. However, this is easily remedied by putting baked goods in a Tupperware and keeping them in my room. Same with chips. As I have previously stated, the sharing is not the issue. Recently, our daughter knocked on my door and asked if she could have a bag of chips. I said yes and gave her one. All of this would be way less annoying if she'd just text, "Hey, can I have some of this?" and waited for my response before just helping herself. How should I break up with my boyfriend after his dad hit me with a boat? I, 21F, am trying to decide whether or not to end my 3-year relationship with my BF 24M. On July 2nd this year, we were on vacation at his family's lake house, about 3 hours from our home, with 7 of our other friends. We decided to go tubing without knowing his father was drunk. Me and another childhood friend were on the tube when BF's father sharply maneuvered the boat, causing the tube to come flying up parallel with this tip of the speedboat. He then turned and ended up hitting and running us over. Both me and the guy on the tube went through the propeller, which led to severe injuries. The propeller cut my side open deeply in 3 spots. I lost my spleen, have severe damage to my kidney, all the ribs on my left side are cut through, I have a broke hip and lower spine, my left arm was broken in multiple spots, and it was unsure if I would keep my arm. By some miracle I did, and it's still functional. I also had a nerve severed, and we are unsure how much feeling I will regain in part of my hand. BF's father told all of our friends in the boat, while me and childhood friend are bleeding out in the back of the boat. The injuries were not that serious, and the police did not need to be called. Obviously, we ignored that. The EMTs were not prepared for my injuries and dropped me onto the dock, causing my organs to spill out. I then was taken in ambulance to the nearest hospital, which also could not handle my injuries. This resulted in me being airlifted downstate. I was awake and alert through the entire 3-hour experience until I was put under for surgery. Later, I was told BF's father told police it was my BF driving who hit us. After 4 surgeries, I spent 18 days in the ICU, during which my boyfriend was very quiet whenever he visited and would not hold eye contact with me. He never visited alone, always with a friend who was with us during the accident. This upset me greatly because I needs support after having gone through such intense trauma. But my BF claims being around me is upsetting and too much for him. I fear he will never see me again, and only my injuries/scars. This plays on my insecurities of never being enough or what he wants physically. Something felt off, so I logged into his email. I know this is wrong of me. And found 2 days ago he reset an OnlyFans account password. Nothing is subscribed in the account but the fact that while I am injured, he's out looking to potentially pay other girls for nudes after his father nearly killed me. We had previously agreed in our relationship that porn was a boundary and something I viewed as grounds for breaking up over. I'm trying to figure out if I'm wasting my time and almost throwing my life away, literally, for a guy who isn't standing by my side in a time where it really counts. It could just be me being emotional over the accident, but I really care for him and just don't feel like he's pulling his weight to fight for our relationship.
I think my son is a psychopath. NSFW. I don't know if it's sociopath or psychopath, but I know something is wrong with my son, and I need someone, anyone, to help me with this as I'm on the edge of losing my mind and need to get this off my chest as this is driving me insane. A little backstory: I have 2 children, 1 boy and 1 girl. Unfortunately, their father left me for another woman, and I have cared for them ever since. My son's name is David, and he is 13 years old and doesn't interact with anybody unless it's his sisters or me, and even then, it's not a complete sentence. He always uses his hands when he wants something the majority of the time. At first, I thought he was deaf. Still, he only fully communicates with his imaginary friend named Friday. Ever since the age of 6, David has always had this one particular imaginary friend. Initially, I thought it was cute, but things only got weird as the years passed. Whenever my son gets frustrated, he hits himself on the head repeatedly and yells, "HHH." I always get scared when he does this, and when things get worse, David starts breaking stuff around him. One time his sister teased him by saying that his friend Friday wasn't real. I kid you not. I walked through the hallway, and I saw David with his hand on his sister's neck. I successfully broke them apart, and she was so scared, shaking in fear. I asked why on earth he would do that, and once again, he got frustrated and started hitting himself. My daughter was so scared of him that she wanted to stay at her father's place as she did not want to be in the same house. After I sent her to stay with her father for a while, things only worsened. David started banging his head on the walls, biting his nails till there was nothing left, purposely hurt his sister's pet fish while she was away by putting it in the microwave, and many more, but not as bad as these 3. Things only get worse when he is at school. He got suspended and almost expelled for putting hand sanitizer inside a kid's milk carton. Thank goodness one of his classmates caught him and told the teacher before something terrible happened. David also hits people randomly, pulls his classmates' hair, steals, throws food in the cafeteria, pulls the fire alarm, writes on walls, and so much more. He also had drawn many creepy pictures, each with the same person. It was Friday, his imaginary friend, that his art teacher told me about when I came to the parent-teacher conference. I'm losing my mind here. It is causing me so much stress dealing with him. Not to mention all the school property damage I had to pay placed me in a dark place I didn't want to go to. But I did not give up on my son because I love him. I eventually pulled David out of school, thinking maybe he just wanted to be around people he liked. I put him in many programs to fix his behavior, but nothing works. The doctor describes him with prescription pills to calm him down, at least. But I feel like he's not actually taking them but instead tricking me into believing he is as I stand there and watch him take it because, I will be honest, I don't trust him. For a while, things got a bit better when his sister came back. But 2 days later, after her return, I was entirely wrong. His behavior has gotten so strange and somewhat beyond creepy. I woke up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom. I turned my lamp on and instantly saw my son staring me down in the darkness, standing in the middle of the hallway. I don't know how long he had been there, but he scared me. The boy ain't right. All David does is draw pictures of this Friday character, talk to him like he's there, and stands in the corner all day. I don't know what to do anymore. He only wanted a sheep mask for Christmas this year, which was his favorite animal. I thought it was weird, but I told him Santa would get it for him. David practically wears it most of the time, which his sister and I find weird, but I do not judge as long as he is happy. His father came for Christmas, and even he is scared of him. I told his father and sister not to eat around him and pay close attention to their food as David likes to put poison inside people's meals as he did with his classmate. I found this strange habit of his out when I saw him put cooking oil underneath the cabinet inside his sister's cereal bowl one morning. I feel like if this keeps going, David will only get worse. Please, I'm begging anyone to give me advice on this situation. This is not fake, and I desperately need help with this. I talked to my friends, coworkers, and family about this, and they have no clue how to solve this without me sending David away for good. I love my son, but his abnormal behavior drains me. I had never felt this tired and stressed. It was terrible before, but this is getting worse as the days and his age goes by. Here is one picture, in particular, he drew that scared me. It wasn't the Friday person. He already scares me enough. But the words around are what made me afraid.
Next story. My husband's family doesn't approve of me. Today, his mother tried to execute me. I, 25F, and my husband, 27M, have been in a loving relationship for almost 6 years. We got married around 1 year ago on our 5-year anniversary, and the backlash from his family has been excessive. They mostly insulted my appearance, saying I'm an ugly slug and how my husband deserves better than someone who is loose and is using him and is going to leave him in a year or two for another man. Although my husband has never believed these allegations, it's gotten to the point where I can tell he's starting to become suspicious of me. Lately, he's been very insecure about himself. He always asks me to check my messages, and whenever he sees me texting another man like a coworker, he gets incredibly agitated until I show him that the chat is mostly professional. He's also been asking me questions about random men I see on social media like, would you sleep with him if you had the chance? And do you think he's hotter than me? I can tell that his family's words are influencing him as we've never had that type of problem before. I decided that with time, he'd gain more trust for me and stop asking these questions. But a week ago, he invited his mom over. We've had several conversations and arguments about how I don't like his mom, and we came to a mutual agreement that if his mom was staying over, he'd defend me if she said anything bad about me. And while he did, eventually he had to go to the bathroom, and his mom took the chance to unleash her rage on me. She kept calling me terrible names and making jokes that imply that I've cheated on my husband. I got very upset at these jokes, and finally, I decided to stick up for myself. We got in an argument about why she doesn't trust me, where she called me even worse names, and it got very heated. My husband intervened in the middle of it and defended me until her mom took her stuff and left. Not long after, I started crying. My husband had to comfort me and tell me his mom didn't mean that stuff and she was just looking out for him. I wish that was the case. Yesterday, I ran into his mom on the way to the store. I was already very nervous to see her, as this was an empty street where not many cars ever come through, and it got even worse when she initiated small talk. The conversation slowly got more aggressive until eventually she started yelling at me, calling me a dirty gal, and attacking me. She eventually picked up a glass bottle from the floor and threw it at me, shattering into tiny pieces and impaling my skin. I was very bloody and decided to run away, but she managed to catch up to me as I'm not a very fast runner. She tripped me and attacked me until I passed out. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. I had to get many stitches and I had fractured my ankle. I guess some pedestrians had seen me laying there hurt and decided to call for help. My husband was there, asking me what happened. When I explained the entire story to him, he seemed skeptical. He looked at me suspiciously and I could tell he was doubting the story. He said he'd talk to his mother and sort this issue out. He hasn't contacted me since then and I'm very worried. I'm still in the hospital while typing this. I don't know what to do. I've tried contacting my husband many times, but he hasn't responded. I don't know if I did something wrong or if he believes his mom more than me, but I need advice. I have a hard time choosing between my Daimakura and my fiancé. 6 years ago, my BFF and I 32M went to Japan to go to a convention. We're otaku that love anime girls. I was going through a deep sadness due to both of my mother and sister passing away within a year and was an emotional wreck, and my BFF thought of an interesting way to make me feel better. He bought me a clothed Daimakura of Misaka Mikoto from Toaru Majutsu, no index. He knew that was my favorite anime girl, and it made me so happy to receive it. He told to make the Daimakura my GF until I felt better, wanting anything to make me feel whole again. I agreed. I treated Mikoto, the Daimakura, as if she was a real GF. We had dates, did the nasty and snuggled at night, told her my secrets and fears and everything else couples do. After a year, I felt so much better, until my BFF passed away in a car accident 5 years ago. In the time between his passing and meeting my fiancé, Mikoto was the only person I had left, and fell deeper for her warmth. This changed when I met my fiancé 24F. Since Mikoto was a Daimakura, I thought I could make her a side piece who I took out when I needed some her warmth, but use my fiancé as my primary source of loving. However, 3 months ago, my fiancé moved in with me and we are getting the house more to both our liking. While she did like anime, she wasn't anywhere near a deep and open as I was, so some items needed to be removed, but I had my limits and didn't let her walk over me. However, I asked that she let me have a man cave closet to myself in the guest bedroom, which she agreed. I placed Mikoto and other important anime relics in there. When we would have a rough patch, I would go into the guest room and snuggle with Mikoto until the morning. Usually, I lock the door so that she won't see what I'm doing, but this time I was so angry and frustrated that I forgot to lock the door. She caught me doing the nasty to Mikoto. My fiancé and I did not speak to each other the rest of the night and in the morning. When I got off of work, I found her sitting in the kitchen with Mikoto near the trash can. Before I could say anything, she went on a rant about how disgusting and unhealthy this is, how she thought I stopped doing the nasty with a pillow nonsense after we moved in together, and gave me an ultimatum to throw Mikoto and my other relics she deemed gross away or she would leave me. I thought she didn't know about Mikoto and what happens between us. At that point, I was very annoyed at seeing Mikoto treated like trash. The Mikoto was a gift my passed-away best friend gave to me to cure my sadness. The Mikoto that gave me so much love and support long before my fiancé was in the picture. I yelled this out at her and how Mikoto was a better lover to me than she ever was. We argued some more until she gave up, grabbed some clothes, and went to her friend's house. I love my fiancé, but Mikoto is also important to me. I fully understand that this is messed up, but I can't control my feelings and wish I wasn't forced to. I sent an anonymous letter to my dad to mess with his head NSFW. My dad is a creep. He hurt all of his children from his first 2 marriages. However, within the community, he is seen as a great guy, well-loved and respected by others. He has gone to great lengths to keep up these appearances. He is a retired cop and devout evangelical Christian. His third wife, his third set of children, all adults living independently now, are all seemingly unaware of the pain he imposed upon his children from his first 2 marriages. He has 7 children total, that I know of, from all of the marriages. I am a child of his second marriage. He has, to my knowledge, kept the child of his first marriage. a secret from his third wife and all of my younger siblings. I only know because this mystery sibling found out about my dad's second and third marriage and his resulting children. The sibling found me on social media and reached out to me about 10 years ago. I have not told anyone. My dad is full of secrets. I have been no contact with him and most of my bio family for many years. My dad would tell me when I was young that if anything got out about his behaviors or past, he would off himself, placing the burden on my shoulders. If I told anyone, he'd pass away and it would be my fault. I have kept his secrets for the past nearly 40 years, but over the past couple of years, I've been in therapy. It's helped me work through a lot of shame and guilt. But now, the predominant feelings I have are rage and a need for justice. But justice is impossible, as the statute of limitations has long expired. Thus, I got an idea. I decided I was going to make it my mission to mess with him. I want him afraid. I want to cause him to feel fear, anxiety, and paranoia. I want to mess with his head. I do not care if it results in his demise. I'm sitting here with a bowl of popcorn just watching and waiting to get to the good part. So I sent him a card, mailed from a faraway post office, obviously without a return address. On the front of the white card, in plain black font, it just said, "Thinking of you," and had a simple line drawing of a flower, one that is, in fact, poisonous. Inside the card, in heavily altered handwriting, I wrote, "I remember, do you?" But I also included a page torn from a Bible. The page was from Luke. I used a highlighter and highlighted the following verse. "For nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad." Luke 8:17. I felt like the card and its contents were poetic, and I am tickled by how perfect it was. I sent it so that it would arrive on his birthday. I plan to continue to send things to him very randomly to mess with his head. I'm writing down ideas in a journal, brainstorming for other perfectly poetic ways to mess with him, to make him fear that his secrets are about to be discovered. I lived in fear of him all of my life. I'd like to return the favor in some small legal manner. Next story. Asked my friend out and she said yes since I threatened no contact. I asked a close friend of mine now who I've known for a few months if they'd like to take it further, and at first they needed time to think about it. The next day, I mentioned how I couldn't prolong our relationship just as friends to save my own mental health. She took that as me being manipulative and me being selfish to get what I want. The truth is, I have feelings for this person, and if they only see me as a friend, I don't see the dynamic ever being what it once was before my confession. Eventually, she did say yes, but only after I mentioned no contact. She insists that I'm not forcing her, but I still don't believe it. I feel like I'm taking advantage of someone I care about, and it's killing me inside. So what do I do? Her reasoning for being hesitant was because of her past, and she's worried that she'll be bad for me. We're both young and the same age, and our personalities align really well, and we're attracted to each other. It seems perfect to me, but I want her to be on board too. I just need some guidance. This is something I've never been through. Update. I informed her of this post, and she has written her own comment as well. Here it is. I am the girl this post is about. This guy isn't anything negative that people have been saying. It's not his fault. It's not my fault. It's just how things are. Society has been toxic lately. Society has taught men not to be happy with just being friends with women. There always has to be something more. And when things don't pan out, we all end up overreacting and saying and doing things we don't mean. Society teaches men to be scared of female friendships as it's seen as a defeat. It shouldn't be. What happens now will stay confidential, but let's just say we reached a positive and good conclusion. It's lucky that I'm somewhat understanding and have been through a lot of situations like this. I truly do care about OP. That's the difference. He's not a douche. That's why I'm here defending him. Thank you to everyone who has advised us, and I've told him to leave this post up as I've seen people resonate with it. And it's a good thing for people in similar situations to stumble upon it and see they aren't alone. Update 2. Some people have started to throw pretty vile insults at me and accusing me of creating my friend's account. I really hope you guys understand that I only came here for help, not to sway you to believe I am right in this. I know I messed up. I'm the bad guy. She's read the whole post and all the comments and still wants to try with me. And for the people here who genuinely are trying to help, thank you. I promise I'll be better from now on. We have both come to a good conclusion and feel like this has blown out of proportion from what really happened. We're both doing fine, and she has reassured me she wouldn't take this step if she didn't trust me. My fiancé proposed to me with his ex-wife's ring. My fiancé proposed to me 3 months ago with an $80 engagement ring he proposed to his ex-wife. I did not know this was her ring. He revealed it after we got engaged, like a month after we got engaged, when the conversation about this particular ring came up, and he said this was his ex-wife's ring he first proposed. I asked why would he propose to me with some other woman's ring that belonged to her first? And he said their marriage didn't work out as she cheated on him and she gave the ring back. He is being so clueless and saying this isn't a big deal and that I'm just starting to pick a fight for no reason. He said it's just a ring, and why would he waste another $80 on another ring when he has a ring already? First of all, the price doesn't bother me much. I didn't really like this ring when he proposed either. It has a very tacky, old-fashioned traditional style to this ring. What bothers me most is obviously the fact that this ring belonged to his first wife and she wore this every day for 5 years. This ring has its own memories attached to it, and it has its own story around it. I don't want to be reminded of my fiancé's ex-wife and their entire 5-year marriage every time I look at my hand. I hate looking at this ring every time I see my hand. I just get reminders of his past marriage. I see his ex-wife's face when I look at my ring. I stopped wearing the ring ever since he revealed the background story behind it. He told me he doesn't care if I don't wear it, and my little strike isn't going to work. He mentioned that he's not wasting his money on another engagement ring, and I can wait for my $20 Amazon wedding band when we get our courthouse marriage done next month on our anniversary. I would really like other women's perspectives if they were in my shoes. If it matters, my fiancé makes $120K yearly income in a state where the cost of living is $50K, edit. A lot of men on here are getting upset thinking the $80 is the main issue here. This is why I said I only cared to read a woman's perspective, because I already know how men are on Reddit. I only mentioned the cost of the ring to provide additional context because I knew people would, and assume he proposed with his ex's hand-me-down, assuming the reason is because it's expensive. I know that would be everyone's question, being the curiosity of the ring. Why would I not provide as much context as I can? It wouldn't make sense to create a post about a problem and not giving as much context as possible, so that's why I am providing information of all of the prices. I have stated many different reasons why I don't want this hand-me-down from his first marriage. You can try rereading this post slower if you still can't comprehend. Found out my daughter isn't mine, but I won't tell a soul and continue raising her like her dad. Throwaway account just to be safe. My wife and I had been trying for a baby for the better part of 3.5 years. Our age plays as we started in our late 30s, early 40s. I have low count, so getting pregnant would be hard, but not impossible. We managed to get pregnant and gave birth to wonderful baby girl. After a few months, I noticed my daughter has absolutely 0 features from me. We joked that she took all her features from her mother, and she's her little clone. For reference, I'm Latino with dark features, and my wife is white with blue eyes. Our baby is paler than she is with green eyes. I got a little suspicious when I noticed a cleft chin, which doesn't run in either of our families. The doubt just kept growing, so I did a paternity test, and turns out I'm not her father. I have no idea or even a suspicion of who it could be, and have no interest in finding out. I love this little girl. She's everything I hoped and dreamed of in a child. I don't care how she got here. I just care that she's in my life. She'll call me dad. I'll be there every step of the way. I'll walk her down the aisle. I'm not telling anyone I'm not her bio dad. If my wife ever decides to come clean, I won't ask any questions. I have everything that I need in my life right now, and I plan on keeping it that way. Edit. I've read through most of the replies here. Honestly, wasn't expecting any replies, so I'll answer some more of the common questions I've seen. No chance it's not hers. I was in the room during the C-section, and after they handed her to me, she never left my sight. I also had the fear they would somehow switch the baby, so whenever a nurse needed to take her for tests, I would accompany. 100% this is the same kid that came out of her. After reading some replies, I agree that the priority should be finding out any genetic history she might be subject to, so I'll be bringing things up with my wife and let whatever the fallout is happen. Since my name is on the birth certificate, I assumed responsibility for the child regardless of if she's mine or not. Had no doubts when she was born. Update. I talked to my wife this morning. She was adamant that this kid is mine. She insists that she's never cheated or had a desire to. She'd have been happy being childless with me. Showed her the paternity test and her story didn't change. She says we're going to do another one because there is 0 chance that this child isn't mine. Honestly, I was not expecting that response, so I'm calling the bluff and we're getting another one done. I'll update in a few days if anybody cares. My best friend passed away and I've been hooking up with his girlfriend and helping out with their daughter. It feels wrong. For some background, we're all 24. My best friend died during a motorcycle accident a month ago. He left behind a 5-month-old daughter in the process, which made things more difficult. I've always had a good relationship with them both. Since he passed, I've been around a lot, whether it's helping out with the baby, supporting her, or just supporting them both. With this, her and I have both become really close since he passed. It started off with just phone calls, being there and consoling her. Then she wanted to start hanging out. One night, things were getting emotional and very heavy, and she kissed me while we were prepping for cooking. She backed away and said, "I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that." And almost immediately, I pulled her back closer to me and kissed her again. She said, "It's been a while." And I just said, "For both of us," and then we hooked up. We talked about it the next morning, and she said that she really trusts me and that she feels safe with me around. She said that she didn't really expect me to be around like I have and wants to explore where this is going. And I said, "Okay, but we need to communicate more than ever since this isn't just going to affect her and I." Since then, we've been doing well. The kid is doing well, and I do really love her even though she has also been a pain, as any newborn is. I'm with her when we go to appointments. I hardly live at my own place right now, which is fine, but my life has changed dramatically this past summer. With all this, I haven't figured out whether what I'm doing is right. It's kind of fucked my mental up. I don't know if it's a bro code thing, but I just feel like I didn't think it through with myself. I think it was a big step for me to take, and I like what it is, but I do feel conflicted about my loyalty to my bro. Because if he were here, I wouldn't be in this situation right now, and I don't know if what I'm doing is bad, noble, or even right. Thanks again, y'all. Have a good night. Edit. I'm making one edit. All I gotta say is I don't care what y'all have to say about what kind of person you think I am anymore. It's clear no matter what I did, people were gonna be pissed because Reddit is full of unhappy people who look to distract their issues with others because it makes them feel better. Y'all are just nasty and rude about things you don't know about. No wonder no one is happy on here. Y'all aren't in my shoes, and you sit there like you got the playbook in your hand. Apparently, I can't hurt for him passing either. My #1 priority is that kid, and as long as she lets me be a part of her life, I literally couldn't give a fuck about anything else. I do appreciate the ones who can at least understand how we got to this point. Truly, thank you. My husband unintentionally broke my heart. My 25F husband, 26M, had a discussion today that broke my heart. My husband and I were married 3.5 years ago. Right after the wedding, I became ill. Over the course of these few years, I've had a brain problem removed and have started treatment for a bad skin condition and was diagnosed with a chronic illness. So I have spent this time very focused on my health. And my husband has been a rock for me, came with me to appointments, nursed me better after surgery, fought with doctors. You name it. If I needed it, he was there. Now another note. We are both quite overweight. Both just a little over 300 pounds. I have gained a lot from inactivity, hormone issues, etc., mainly due to health issues, though I have been bigger for most of my life. I'm very sensitive about my size, and am really embarrassed about it. Another thing to point out is my husband has OCD, and we are looking into a diagnosis of other things as well. This has been very hard for him, as he can't handle his emotions well or express him well at times. Now to today, we were having a wonderful day. We visited some friends in a nearby city and were on our way home when I started talking about how I'd like to lose weight. I was feeling pretty self-conscious and wanted to open up to him. And so I said to him, "I worry that one day you'll wake up and no longer love me because of my size." He didn't say much. This is pretty normal for him, as it's a sensitive topic and he has a hard time approaching these subjects with an emotional perspective. However, me feeling vulnerable, I called him on his silence and said, "I wish you'd love me unconditionally like I love you. Why couldn't you just comfort me and tell me you'll always love me no matter what?" His response to this? "I do love you unconditionally. I know that I do because I don't find you attractive whatsoever and I still want to be with you." That sentence crushed me. I felt my world crumble a little after a minute of quiet and wrapping my head around what he had said. I then asked what he meant by that and for details on what he found unattractive about me. And he effortlessly listed off a long list of almost every physical attribute I have. From my skin condition to being sick for the last year to my weight and everything in between. I'm trying to move past this, as I 100% know he had no ill intent and he feels awful about hurting me. He keeps trying to make up for it by telling me the things he loves about me and telling me how much he loves me, but I don't know that Over ever felt so terrible about myself. I don't know how to let this go. I told my friend's wife that he was cheating, but she already knew. Now I, 25M, have been friends with Jack, 26M, for over 5 years. This dude is like a brother to me. So at the beginning, when he told me about his affair, he'd been doing it already for 4 months already. As time went on, he got more reckless and careless. When I found out he kept having the affair for just about a year, going over to his place used to be a little weird because his wife was very kind, social, and just all around a really good wife. He'd done countless things with the woman he was cheating with. He told me he explored new things. When his wife was at work, he used to cheat in their bed. When he has an argument with his wife, he'd go over to her place and have extra long sessions. Personally, I found it sickening, and I told him this every time. Always the same response. He laughs and just says, "If I don't cheat, nothing will make me love my wife more." I gave up trying to make him see that it's messed up. I told him this 4 months prior to last week. If she finds out and she asks me about it, what do I say? He said, "She'll never find out, so don't say anything to her." However, last week the gravy train ended for him and she found out. He invited me over to his place and I didn't know they had an argument like an hour before I came. So she knew. She went through his phone in the night and found everything. The name of the girl, some stuff he'd done with her, pictures they sent to each other, pretty much everything, and the duration they've been talking. I told him I'll leave and let them sort it out, but he told me to chill and that he denied it, and she still doesn't know a thing. As I was standing there, ready to leave, she came out the room with dried-up tears in her eyes and asked if I knew the whole time. This is where I might be the bad friend. I said, "I knew and I'm sorry, but Jack really does love you." I was asked to leave the house rightfully, and I understand. Worst thing about it, when she asked me if I knew, he was behind her smirking as if he knew how uncomfortable the situation was for me, but he got pleasure out of it. He called me later saying that I'm a bad friend and person for saying I knew, and that even if she knows, I should have denied it till the end. But I don't know all the tactics on cheating and lying. I would never cheat on my girlfriend because I don't roll like that. I told my girlfriend about the situation and she said I'm absolutely not in the wrong. But according to my friend, I ruined their marriage. To me, I just think he flew way too close to the sun. I might be wrong, though. Parents who gave their kids up for adoption. What did you do afterwards? I made my son's birth mom move out once the adoption was finalized. For the past 7 years, my husband, 43M, and I, 37F, have been trying to have children, but we've been unsuccessful as we've went to specialists and have been assured that we can't have children. Our hearts were broken, and since then we've wanted nothing less than to become parents and have something to call our own. Last year, we decided we would volunteer helping at foster homes and helping the youth and young adults that were struggling with homelessness. While doing this, we met our son's birth mother, 19F. She was pregnant and struggling with homelessness, and we offered to take her in, help her with maternity clothes, health care, transportation with doctor's appointments, etc. She took us up on our offer and moved in, and that's when she began telling us that her child's father wasn't in the picture and she had no way to provide for him. She didn't know what she was going to do and had no job or way of caring for him. She was 20 weeks pregnant around this time. As our bond grew, we told her our struggles with having a child of our own and told her that it would mean the world to us to have a child as we are financially stable and a loving family. We offered to adopt him and have her be a sister figure to him. We told her that this was completely her decision and that we would support whatever she wanted. After a few weeks, she told us that she wanted us to adopt him once she gave birth, and we agreed to an open adoption. We thanked her, and we supported her in every way she needed, and she also had her own room in our home. Fast forward, she gave birth to our son, Aiden. I was there for the birth, and our bond was unexplainable. Shortly after, the next morning, she signed off the adoption papers and terminated her rights. We then took him home along with her. About 2 weeks after his birth, she began becoming very clingy with our son. We explained that he was ours and she was welcome to help with him, but he was my son and I would make all decisions regarding him. This upset her, and she felt hurt, so we ultimately decided to ask her to move out, and once the adoption was finalized, we haven't had any contact with her since. We decided to close the adoption, and we asked her not to contact us any further. His birth mother thinks I'm a smelly Ellie and accuses me of manipulating her with false pretenses. However, this is not true, and Aiden is our son and I am his mother, so I have to do what's best for him. I am really starting to resent my boomer of a mother. My sister and I are children of a single mother. Our father has never been in the picture, and our mother never sought child support for us. I'd like to start this by saying my mother is our hero. She did it all by herself in a time that was hard for single women and provided a great life for us. She was a factory worker that worked on the line starting at 18 years old, the summer out of high school. She bought a 2-bedroom home in Toronto near the lakefront at 23 years old by herself after 5 years of working at the factory. She retired at 48 years old with a full pension and her house paid off. She is 65 years old now and hasn't worked a day in 17 years. She is constantly telling my sister and I that we need to buy a house and stop wasting money on rent. By the time I was your age, I already had 10 years of equity into the house. When pressed on maybe helping my sister and I buy a house, she states she doesn't have any means to help. But she follows that up with, I didn't get any help when I bought my first home. Well, her first home was $77,000, which was 3x her annual income. I make $70,000 a year, and the average price of homes for a 2-bedroom in my area is $700,000, which is 10x my annual income. The cheapest home for sale in 100-kilometer radius is $613,000 for a townhouse with condo fees. Our mother looks at this and simply says, you have to do what you have to do, get a third job, start delivering for Uber Eats, unsubscribe to Netflix. She always ends the discussion with, I see people younger than you moving into homes in this town, so you kids must be doing something wrong. Others are affording homes. Why can't you? I try to tell her that most of those people are getting help from their parents through HELOC. My favorite line has been, what did you do 4 years of university for if your job can't afford you a starter home? I work in a forensic lab and appear in court as an expert witness on major criminal cases. That's why I went to university for 4 years. The fact she doesn't understand that the world is so drastically different now than when she was my age is really starting to put a strain on our relationship. I lie to my therapist so that my dogs stay healthy. I've been seeing my mental health provider for about 5 years now. I have a psychiatrist whom I meet with once per month to manage my medications, and my therapist whom I meet every 2 weeks to talk things out. Both providers are fantastic and have helped me with my mental health issues in a monumental way. I definitely see an improvement in my personal and work life, and so do my relatives and close friends. My psychiatrist prescribed me gabapentin as a supplement to my anxiety meds. When I initially started taking it as prescribed, I noticed that it made me extremely groggy, like unable to function kind of groggy. I brought this up to her, so she lowered my dosage. But even the lower dosage was still making me groggy. I tried taking it in the evening, but all that did was extend the grogginess to the next morning. I decided to give it a rest for a week and see how I did. It turns out I felt like I did just fine with only my anxiety medication without the gabapentin. Right around that same time, one of my dogs was diagnosed with minor hip dysplasia. His vet put him on some medication along with gabapentin as needed for pain. His gabapentin prescription was close to $40 for a month's supply, whereas mine, after insurance, is only $11 for a 90-day supply. On my dog's next appointment, I mentioned this to his vet, and he told me that it's okay to give him half of my gabapentin pill if I ever had any left over, since my dog only needed half the dosage, and that he could write me another prescription when I ran out. So I figured that I'd keep giving my dog from my gabapentin since I didn't feel like it gave me any benefit, and I had a lot left over since my dog only needs half the dosage, and he doesn't need it every day, and so would just keep having my psychiatrist prescribe it. And that's what I've been doing for a few months now. During my monthly check-in with my psychiatrist, I tell her that I'm still taking all my meds as prescribed, so she'll keep refilling my prescription, and I know my dog will be pain-free without breaking the bank. My boyfriend faked a proposal, so I broke up with him. I, 24F, have been dating my boyfriend Andrew, 36M, for 5 years now. We've had a healthy and stable relationship up until today. Andrew has always been a prankster and make jokes with me all the time, and I do it to him too, but today he took it way too far. In the morning, he woke me up at 7 a.m. and told me to wake up because he wanted to take me to the spa. I was pretty surprised because it wasn't a special day or anything, but I was all in for it. At the spa, he told me how he wanted to go to a fancy restaurant after we were done at the spa, and that he was paying. Of course, I agreed, as we hadn't been out together in a long time. We then got to the restaurant, we had a beautiful and romantic dinner, and just a nice time in general. We were talking about a house we were planning to move into, and chit-chatted about other stuff too. After around 40 minutes, Andrew stood up and got on his knees and took out a box out of his pocket. My heart stopped beating. I hadn't even predicted this. We have never talked about proposal before, but I also thought it was a great time now. He did a speech about how I was the most beautiful girl in the world, and how he wanted to live with me forever, and ended with, "Will you marry me, my princess?" Of course I said yes. Seconds later, all that excitement turned into horror. He opened the small box I expected he put the ring in, and in it was a note saying, "You've been pranked." And Andrew started laughing hysterically. He continued with, "Baby, this was just a prank. I'm not ready at all to marry you yet." He was leaning in to hug me, but I gave him the biggest slap ever with tears streaming down my face. I just told him, "We're over, you smelly scumbag." I am now sitting in my bed crying and writing this, and I don't know what to do. He's been texting and calling me, but I haven't responded because I feel so sad, betrayed, and mostly angry. I thought this was going to be one of the best days of my life. What should I do? Wife told me someone else is her soulmate. My wife, M, met her best friend Chuck in high school. They became close friends, and Chuck came out to M as gay. M was supportive. A year or so later, Chuck came out to his parents. They disowned him and kicked him out, and Chuck ended up living with M and her parents for the rest of high school. M and I started dating after college, and she told me all about Chuck and how close they were and how he was like a brother. I met Chuck, and we got along and became friends. Chuck is a good guy. At the time Chuck was dating a guy, they ended up moving in together about the same time that M and I got engaged. M and I have been married for 5 years now. I'm a project manager and took on a year-long project in another city. I have to leave at 5:30 a.m. every morning and get home around 6:30 p.m. Em and I had a long talk about my job before I took on this project. We knew it would be a sacrifice for me to be working so much, but I'm getting more money than I ever thought I would. After this project, we can pay off our student debt and start trying to have a baby. We both agreed the money was worth it since it's only a year. That year will be up in late November. In March, Chuck caught his boyfriend cheating. He was devastated. Em immediately told him he could move in with us. I was fine with him moving in, but not happy that Em didn't even discuss it with me first. Chuck was pretty broken up, and Em was giving him lots of love and attention. I was fine with it, because I know how much she loves Chuck, and he did need her. I also did my best to support him and make him feel loved. For a while, this was fine. But as time went on, Em has continued to pour all of her attention into Chuck. Sometimes I get home from work and neither of them are there, and I found out they went to a movie or out to dinner together. I don't think there is anything romantic or sexual between them, but it has been annoying that I get left out of all the plans. The past few weeks, several things have happened. The three of us went to a party, and someone joked about Chuck being our third wheel, and Em said, "Chuck is not the third wheel." I said, "What?" And she said, "I've known Chuck longer than I've known you." A week or so after that, Em and Chuck went out dancing one night. I had to work the next day, so I stayed home. I woke up at about 3 a.m. and Em was not in bed. I went and found her, and Chuck cuddled up on the couch asleep with the TV on. Both of those things made me uncomfortable. I also realized I had been working so much I was just sort of letting Em and Chuck plan everything, and I had not planned a date night in a while. I decided I needed to be more active, and so I planned a date night for last Friday. When I first told Em, she was excited, as we have not been on a date, just the two of us, in a while. Friday I got home at 6:30, and Em and Chuck were not there. I took a shower and got ready. About 7:15 I finally called Em, as we had reservations at 8. She answered, and when I asked where she was, she said her and Chuck had gone shopping and were getting some dinner. I was kind of stunned and asked about our date. She laughed and said, "Oh, I forgot, oh well," and that was that. She didn't even invite me to join them. So, a point I should make here. My dad was very controlling of my mom and had an anger problem where he would yell and throw things. He never threw things at us, but it was still scary as a kid. I have worked very hard to not be like him. I've tried to never be controlling of Em or tell her what to do. I also tend to shut down when I get angry. When Em forgot our date, I was mad, so I didn't say anything right then, but I knew I needed to address how I was feeling. So later that evening, I told her we needed to talk. I had written down some things so I could stay focused. I started by saying that I loved Chuck and he was always welcome in our home, but that I felt like our marriage was suffering and we needed to work on us. Em blew up. She thought I was attacking Chuck. I guess I didn't word things well, and she started defending him and attacking me. We have never had a big fight before. We always talk and work things out. I was stunned that she was attacking me. She said some awful things. Then she said, "Chuck is my soulmate and you just have to get used to that." I just shut down. I didn't even know how to process that. I love Em more than anything in the world, but in that moment, I realized she loves Chuck more than she loves me. I thought Em and I were soulmates, but to hear her say she considers someone else her soulmate has been devastating. I don't remember the rest of the talk. She huffed off after a while and slept on the couch. Her and Chuck left together on Saturday and were gone most of the day. When they got back, she acting like nothing had happened. On Sunday, she even made a small joke and batted her eyes at me, something she does when she's flirting with me.